Bio. This is Mr. B. We're continuing on with the section, the fossil record. If you remember, we talked about fossils, what they are, how they're formed, and how we can give them an age. So now, in this video, we're going to talk about the actual different periods of time which the fossils existed, and we have specific names for each one of those, what we call an era. And overall, this is going to be what's called the geologic time scale. So this is how we look at the age of the fossils. We have a specific name for when each one of this life occurred, depending on how long ago or how relatively short time ago it occurred. So paleontologists use a scale called the geologic time scale, so this is another important concept, to represent evolutionary time. So how things kind of have changed over the time periods, and again, this is going to be going back millions and millions of years. And so scientists first developed the geologic time scale by studying rock layers and index fossils worldwide. So using these rock layers, they were able to divide up different time periods based on the types of organisms that lived in that time and things like that. And so our basic divisions of our geologic time scale are going to be eras and periods. So when we go back and look at our Earth's history, we have different eras, and then eras are broken up into what are called periods. So we're going to do an activity in class to kind of help us maybe get these all straightened out. So eras, periods are two important things to know, with the era being the bigger one, period being what the eras are broken down into. And so geologic time, it begins with what's called Precambrian time, which covers about 88% of Earth's history. So this is our earliest time, I guess you would say, when we just talk about geologic time, because this is when our first life came around. Is about 650 million years ago is when we first saw life, and it covers about 88% of Earth's history. And this is called Precambrian time. So this is our oldest because it is our farthest back where we actually see life. And so then our other eras that we have I'll just stop there. So geologists divide the time between Precambrian time and the present into three eras. So after Precambrian time, we have three eras, and these eras are the Paleozoic, the Mesozoic, and the Cenozoic. So I know these words sound complicated, but you just might be able to, I'm never going to have you have to write these down off of memory. Just if you see them, you might need to be able to put them in order from oldest to youngest, or vice versa, youngest to oldest. So we're going to start with our Paleozoic. So the Paleozoic era began about 544 million years ago, and during this time, many vertebrates and invertebrates were alive. So these were our earliest animals came to be during our Paleozoic era, and you can see now we're going to get into each one of these periods later on in our chapter. So now, again, we're just going to do an activity with this in class to try and get them all straight. Again, I would never have you memorize exactly which order all of these go in. Maybe just need to know, if you could, just looking at this chart altogether, being able to read that. So these are our various periods that make up our Paleozoic era. And so after the Paleozoic, we have the Mesozoic, which began about 245 million years ago. And this is the age where all of our dinosaurs lived. So this is important thing to know about the Mesozoic, is that dinosaurs lived during this time. And another important thing is that mammals began to evolve during this era. So this is when we first started seeing our first mammals. However, they were really small at this time, and they didn't dominate the Earth. Dinosaurs were dominating the Earth during our Mesozoic. And so the Mesozoic has three different periods in it, and these names just kind of sound like dinosaurs' names, mainly because of our famous movie Jurassic Park. So we have our Triassic period, our Jurassic period, and our Cretaceous period are all present during the Mesozoic era. So this is when the dinosaurs lived. And so then our final era is the Cenozoic era, and it began about 65 million years ago, and it continues on today. So this is the era that we are currently living in right now, is the Cenozoic era. And then mammals became common during the Cenozoic. So mammals are the dominant life form on Earth right now. We have more mammals, it seems like, than as far as large animals, I guess. So we have more insects than anything else, but a majority of our large animals today are mammals. We don't have any gigantic dinosaurs running around like we used to. And so then the Cenozoic is currently broken up into two periods, with the first one being the Tertiary, and then now we are currently in the Quaternary period. So again, being able to recognize where each one of these belongs is kind of the most important thing. I'll never have you memorize each individual order of these. And so then those were all the eras. And so now what a period is, and which again we're going to get into each one of those later on. And so periods, so eras are just subdivided into periods, so that means multiple periods make up one era, and they range in length from tens of millions of years to less than 2 million years. So they a lot of variety in the length that they have. And many periods are named for the places around the world where geologists first discovered the rocks and fossils of that period. So if we have a lot of, let's say, going back here, like the Carboniferous, for an example, that could be we had a lot of carbon-based life forms, or there's a lot of oxygen in the air, and this is actually when a lot of our fossil fuels were formed within this area. So that would kind of be an example of how those names came to be. And so to end this section, there's one really big important concept we need to look at, is that clock model of Earth's history. So this is an important thing to know. So in terms of actually life on Earth, if all life on Earth were 24 hours, so it looks like if you look here, a majority of our time, which is almost, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So almost all of the time so far, at least 20 hours, has been dedicated just to pre-Cambrian time. And then the Paleozoic era takes up a couple minutes, and the Mesozoic era takes up even less than time. So then in terms of the entire age of the Earth, humans, if we represented it on a clock, humans have only been around for maybe a couple seconds. That's how short we've been around compared to the entire age of the Earth, which, remember, it's billions of years old. So that is an important concept to know, that humans, in terms of relative age of the Earth, we have not been around very long at all, and today we represent using a clock model. So this clock model is important. You're going to need to know this for your quiz. So that is it for section 1. Let me know if you have any questions.